You wake up not to an alarm clock, but to a thought that warms you more than any coffee ever could. One more year, and you're out. Out of this stinking hole called Wall Street. The house in Connecticut is already picked out. A white porch, a yard lined with maples, a dog tearing across the grass, kids heading to a normal school without Manhattan prices and Manhattan ambition. 12 more months, one solid bonus, one good market cycle, and you stop being a rat in a glass tower. You lie there doing the math. Base salary, last year's bonus, stock options, 35% tax, mortgage, tuition, insurance. The numbers stack neatly, as if life were an Excel sheet and you were the god of formulas. Freedom has a price tag. You're almost there. What do you almost? Your wife is already moving around in the kitchen. The kids are arguing over cereal. The dog scratches nervously at the floor and looks at you with a strange sadness, as if it knows you've only got a few hours left to live. Your head hums. You slept 4 hours like always. 90 hours a week. Standard for investment banking idiots, with a complimentary tremor in your left hand and a twitch in your eye. But you love it. You love thinking of yourself as a financial heavyweight, elite business school, downtown office, secretaries in short skirts. You worked your whole life for this. Just a little more to go. Your wife watches you longer than usual, says you look terrible, suggests you take the day off. You laugh. A day off? Are you insane? It's September. The market's jumpy. Oil's swinging. Clients are nervous. You're not a school teacher who can just not show up. You're a cog in a very expensive machine, and that machine pays you enough to tolerate migraines, insomnia, and stress-induced erectile dysfunction. I'm fine, you say, kiss her temple, and walk out. 1 more year, that's all. You can almost hear the timer ticking. On the way to the garage, you catch your reflection and realize you look ridiculous. A suit worth several $1,000s, dark circles under your eyes, fog in your head, but you have a plan. Most people don't. You're proud of that. You even look down a little on people who live without a clear financial horizon and somehow manage to be happy. Yes, you're exhausted. Yes, sometimes you stare at your reports and think you're wasting your life on bullshit, but it's temporary. You're smart. You ran the numbers. The car merges into traffic. Gridlock, as always. The radio drones about the market, about oil spiking again, about unrest somewhere in the Middle East. You half listen. What matters is how the day closes, what the quarter looks like, what the bonus will be. Politics is background noise. You learned long ago how to filter it out. The world is always on fire somewhere. But on Wall Street, only what moves the numbers counts. The towers are visible from a distance. They don't inspire awe in you. For tourists, they're symbols. For you, they're where the money is, and the money is good. The South Tower. Your floor somewhere around 70. Lower than some colleagues, but high enough to feel like you belong to the elite. You don't think of height as risk. Height is status. A view of the city. Clean, vertical proof of success. You park, head to the elevator, nod at familiar faces. Sleepy jokes about how the market's going to kill someone today. Complaints about clients, about exhaustion. Everyone living inside the same funnel. You feel like you belong. Yes, it makes you nauseous, but it's the familiar kind, like the low hum of air conditioning in the background. The office smells of expensive coffee and paper. Monitors glow, numbers scroll. You open your email, skim the briefings, and again the image of the Connecticut house flickers in your mind. Then, the picture shifts, like the screen in your head just went dark, and hell starts. 8:45. You're thinking about a meeting near noon when a dull impact slams through the building. Not a pop, not a bang, an impact. The kind that makes the windows tremble. Someone cracks a tasteless joke. What, did someone crash the market again? The joke doesn't land. Later, you'll see that same guy falling from an enormous height, but that's later. Through the windows you see smoke over the North Tower. Thick, black. The office goes quiet at first, then noise rises. People stand. Someone rushes to the window. Phones come out. Frantic calls to loved ones. The news is on almost instantly. A plane hit the building. A passenger jet. You stare at the screen and feel the image refuse to fit in your head. A plane doesn't just lose control. This isn't some crop duster. It's a massive machine with pilots, instruments, protocols. An accident. Deliberate. The word hasn't been spoken yet, but it's hanging there. Panic spreads gradually, like a fever climbing. Someone insists it's an accident. Someone else is already packing up. Management tries to sound calm. We're waiting for information. They repeat. You repeat it to yourself. Waiting for information. No hysteria. You're rational, remember? You don't panic. And then, completely out of place, fragments of your life flash before you. Not cinematic slow motion, just shards. Your wife at the window that morning. Maybe don't go in. You brushed it off. Like you brush off everything that doesn't fit the schedule. The kids arguing over nonsense. The dog jumping around like it sensed something. You get angry at yourself for thinking that way. You don't believe in premonitions. You turn back to the screen. Smoke. People below. Commentators who clearly don't understand what's happening. Someone in the office is crying. Someone's on the phone. You dial home. Your wife answers immediately. "Sweetheart, it's fine. Don't worry," you say. On the other end, you already hear her sobbing. "Please come home. Right now." "It's fine," you reply flatly. "I'll be home soon." Suddenly someone shouts that we need to evacuate. Someone else says there's no official order. Movement begins, but not yet real terror. You stand between desks, among people you were discussing bonuses and options with yesterday, and you realize how absurd those conversations sound now. The house in the suburbs. One more year. You almost laugh. One more year of what? What exactly were you waiting for? And then it happens. The second impact, 9:03 a.m. You will remember that time more precisely than your own wedding date. First comes the sound, not a cinematic explosion, not a bang, a deep, animalistic impact, like a freight train slamming into the building at full speed. Except it isn't a train, nearly 587 miles per hour, over 10,000 gallons of fuel, tons of metal and people. It hits higher up, between the 77th and 85th floors. You're below, technically lucky. The floor jerks beneath your feet as if the skyscraper were a living body punched in the chest. The air compresses and shoves into your face like a shockwave. Glass fractures. Some of it rains inward. Someone falls. Someone screams. Someone just stands there, mouth open, like an idiot who hasn't realized he's just been thrown out of his old reality. The smell arrives seconds later. Jet fuel, burning plastic, dust, sharp, metallic, stinging your nose. The office turns into chaos. Shards across desks, monitors crashing down, papers flying like some stupid corporate metaphor about everything collapsing. Except this isn't a joke. You stand there and automatically start calculating. Evacuation, stairwells, flow rate, density. If there are tens of thousands of people in the tower, how long does it take to clear one stairwell? How long before smoke fills the floors? You cling to numbers like a life raft, because if you let go, there's only panic. Someone screams that it was another plane. You don't want to believe it. Your brain resists. 2 airliners in a row isn't an accident. It's something else. But something else is too big a word. It's easier to think about evacuation. The elevators are already dead. The lights flicker. Then part of the office sinks into a dim, half-dark. You move toward the stairwell with the crowd. People lurch forward in jerks, like water forcing its way through a clogged pipe. Some shove. Some pull others to their feet, and then you see, for the first time, someone who has just stopped breathing. He's lying between desks, motionless, one arm twisted at an unnatural angle. There's no cinematic beauty to it, just a body. You freeze for half a second, and your stomach flips hard. This is it, reality. Not a news clip, not an abstract casualty, a person. You turn away, because if you stare any longer, you'll throw up. You're rational. You're not the hysterical type, but something inside is already cracking. The illusion that you control your life shatters like the glass crunching under your shoes. You start moving faster, scanning for an exit. The stairwell is hazy with smoke. Not thick yet, but sharp, biting. People push downward in panic, jamming into one another. Security reacts fast. One of them actually slaps a broker named John, who's screaming and losing it worse than anyone. Someone is on the phone. Someone is sobbing. You pull yours out. For some reason, you suddenly need to call your wife. And just as suddenly comes the thought that this might be your last call. You shove the idea away. Signal bars flicker, but the connection keeps dropping. You dial her again and again. Rings, then silence. Your mind replays the morning. Maybe don't go in. You smiled like the grown-up who knew better. Idiot. Someone nearby says something about the Pentagon, another plane, then about a flight that went down in Pennsylvania. Information arrives in fragments, stripped of context. The world that felt predictable this morning is now swerving like a drunk driver. You keep moving down, but the flow stops. Word spreads that there's debris below. Someone shouts to find another way. The elevators are dead. The shafts are black wells. What rises in your chest isn't even panic. It's anger at yourself, at the situation, at this damn job. You dragged yourself too, with a low-grade fever and 4 hours of sleep. The smoke thickens. Offices nearby are burning. Fire alarms wail, but the sound drowns in the larger roar. Through a shattered window, you see things falling from the upper floors. At first you think it's debris, then you realize it's people. One figure drops, tiny against the sky. It takes a second to register that you're watching a living human being who chose falling over fire. A cold cuts through you that has nothing to do with the smoke. Up above, everything is torn open. Those above the impact are trapped. Someone yells that there's no way through. Someone tries to go up to help, but gets forced back. You stand between floors, and for the first time in your life, you pray. Not elegantly, not by the book. No poetry, just bargaining. I'll leave this place. I'll quit. I'll stop living like a machine. Just give me a chance. You, the guy who mocked religious co-workers, are now ready to promise anything. The call finally connects. It's brief, frayed, breaking into static and shouting. You tell her you love her. Too early for words like that. And you both know it. She's crying. You lie and say everything's under control, because if you tell the truth, it becomes final. That was your last call. Around you, no one is trying to look composed anymore. Someone pounds on a wall. Someone convulses on the floor. Someone claws at doors. A woman nearby has blood across her face from shattered glass. You want to run. You want to break free, to be first down the stairs, but your hands lift her by the elbow instead. The next attempt to descend ends at a wall of debris. Steel, concrete, wreckage. Someone says there's another route. It's blocked too. The stairwells are turning into traps. The air is thinning. The heat is rising. The rationality you clung to begins to melt like plastic in flame. You try doors. You pull handles. You test corridors. Elevators are gone. Passageways sealed. The building groans like a massive ship taking on water. And for the first time you understand that numbers won't save you. You're on a glass Titanic that's about to go under. You're still moving, still searching, still believing someone will reach you, will pull you out, because the alternative is impossible. But the old confidence is gone. There's only the need to breathe and to get out. And one thought pounding in your skull like a broken metronome. If I survive, everything changes. First, you just have to survive. Then it happens. What everyone feared. The ceiling doesn't start cracking. It doesn't warn you. It drops. First, a heavy impact somewhere ahead, like a giant safe smashing down onto the floor. Then another, and another. There's no time to form a thought. Thoughts require time, and time is gone. The people in front of you are swallowed first. Duni, not heroically, not dramatically. They're simply no longer there. As if someone deleted a row from a spreadsheet. Then you scream. Not a word, not a name, just a raw, stupid animal sound. And your light goes out. Not gradually, instantly. A massive section of ceiling collapses and buries you. The South Tower falls at 9:59 a.m. 56 minutes of fire. Less than an hour, and a structure engineered for hurricanes and disasters ceases to be a structure. You spent your life working with numbers, and now this number imprints itself deeper than any other. 56 minutes, less than a good business lunch. Less than your usual morning strategy meeting. You always believed you managed risk. You hedged positions, shifted exposure, insured losses. You believed life worked the same way, allocate correctly, and the outcome stays predictable. But now you're standing in darkness, and your entire strategy looks like a presentation that was never saved. Your last clear thought isn't about fear, not about pain. It's that you always considered yourself smarter than most. You laughed at panic, at superstition, at signs. Maybe you were smart. Intelligence just isn't insurance against the ending. The darkness thickens, sound dulls. The pressure vanishes as suddenly as it arrived. And in that final second, when you can still think, one simple truth lands. The freedom you dreamed about was always there. Not in the house by the water, not in the bonus. Not in one more year. It was in the right to stop, a right you never used. And then there's no market, no floors, no plan.